If you are someone who's in your 20s, and even if you're not in your 20s and you are navigating life, hello, this podcast is for you. Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of Her Lens podcast. I am your host, Rubina. Please join me in this wonderful podcast where we keep it real. We talk about life, we talk about healing, we talk about love, and we talk about everything in between. I'm so happy that you guys are here joining me because honestly, I feel like I'm having my radio rebel moment. If you know, you know. I actually wanted to start the podcast off with this wonderful quote that I found a couple days ago. So don't mind me because I'm going to grab my phone. It says, God sees your potential even when you don't. You are capable of more than you think. And with faith, you'll grow into the person God has designed you to be. So first and foremost, before I kind of explain everything about Her Lens, I wanted to say thank you so much to my friends and family who have supported me so much during this time. And shout out to the producer and his wife for supplying the space and the whole studio and the setup. They are awesome. If you haven't already, check out the Instagram, which will be linked in the description down below. We did a really cool photo shoot, by the way. More pics to come. And yeah. So a little bit about me. I am someone who enjoys just hanging out with friends, having spontaneous trips planned. I've been really enjoying just going places and having my own presence and just experience and being off my phone and being maybe I'm not posting anything anywhere, but I'm just enjoying my time. So this podcast kind of was born from my own highs and lows. And like I said in the beginning, it has been a long time coming. And by that, I mean I've for the longest time have wanted to start a YouTube channel. And then I thought about being an influencer. And, I feel like that's kind of a dream of a lot of people's because we're sitting there watching all the influencers on TikTok. And we're sitting and watching YouTubes. And I was thinking to myself, okay, this is something I really want to do, but how am I going to make it happen? And so I guess I really never thought about the way I was going to do it or, getting all the supplies to do so. And then one day a friend and I were talking about starting a podcast together, and we had come up with a logo that I think we made on Canva or something. And then we were talking about things that we would be interested in hearing from just inspiration from other podcasts and stuff. And I was like, okay, let's make this happen. Long story short, it didn't end up happening. Life happened and things happened. And then fast forward, I'm with a group of friends and we're all joking about me doing a solo podcast. And I was like, I think I could really do it. And so then we started planning some dates to set up a photo shoot. And we talked about when we'd want to launch the podcast. And it started getting so real that I was actually kind of nervous. My ultimate goal with the podcast, to be honest with you, is to have this really fun, upbeat, FaceTime with a friend, right? It was so funny because a couple days ago when I thought about filming episode 1, I was like, this is my intro to everything. This is what's going to set the tone for this entire podcast. But when I was talking about it with my boyfriend, he said something so smart. By the way, shout out to you because love you. He said any new project, and especially if you're an artist, you already know that starting something new can mean it comes with mess ups, it comes with failing, and it's just part of the journey, right? Things can only get progressively better. And that just it just made so much sense in that moment, and it still does because I have had so many things from the start of this podcast to now that didn't necessarily go to plan. Let me take a quick water break. Also, shout out Dutch Bros. I would love to be sponsored by you. Favorite place in the world. So like I said, this podcast was born out of my own highs and lows in life, right? I called it Her Lens for a reason. It is the world through my lens, through my perspective on life and the things that I've gone through and the things I've experienced, said, done, went, everything. And it was crazy because back in December was originally when we were going to start this podcast. And I remember thinking to myself okay, it's going to be pretty simple. We'll set up a photo shoot, we'll drop the promo, we'll start recording, we'll edit, boom, done. No. That's actually far from. Back in December, we had originally planned to film, to do all the things. We had a lot of accounts. We had to purchase a domain. There was a lot of things, like little tiny things that had to go into making this all happen. And ultimately, moral of the story is it didn't happen. And really, I'd like to think that, like, sometimes we have plans and we have things that we're like, okay, this is the amount of time I need. This is when it's going to happen. And then when it doesn't happen that way, we're like so heavily disappointed. And so, you know, we ended up picking up back in, what is this, May? And we got all the tedious stuff out of the way, and it's just been like, okay, the motivation moving forward, like, what are we going to do moving forward? And like, I'd say the whole quote that I like shared with you guys, it resonated so deeply with me because it took me some time to think that way, right? Like, I was sitting here putting a lot of pressure on myself, and then I was like, okay, well, it's up to me to, like, chase after my dream. And so I did that, and it's just been like exciting and rewarding all over again. And honestly, I couldn't have done it without you guys and without my family and friends who also support me. This podcast, if you are someone who's in your 20s, and even if you're not in your 20s and you are navigating life, hello, this podcast is for you. Because I will tell you now that majority of what you're going to hear on this podcast is all my experiences that I've had summed up and brought out to you guys so that you can have some sort of motivation. And maybe you just need to hear, like, okay, I'm not the only one who's gone through this. And so really, like, my goal is to help you guys in any way I can, and or comfort you guys in any way I can. So guys, if there's anything that I've learned from this experience and putting together this podcast and starting this journey with you guys, with my producer, with my friends, with my family, it is that growth isn't always loud. And by that I mean, like, it can be quiet and messy and tedious, and it takes time, and really it can be slow, but it doesn't mean that things aren't happening. So if you have a dream right now that maybe you're putting on the back burner, or maybe you're in the midst of a project and you're feeling like you have writer's block, or I think it's like creative, like mind block, then just know that it takes time. And really, I'm so thrilled to be doing this, and like just having everything and like getting set up and getting started, like I said, was tedious and messy, but we're here now. And if you haven't already, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below. If you haven't already, please turn on your post notifications. And please note that we are releasing a new episode of Her Lens Podcast every Tuesday at 2:30 p.m. Pacific time. If you guys want to share with your friends this podcast, I would be more than grateful. This has just been such a humbling and exciting experience, and I'm excited to take you guys along with me because it is only going to get better. Remember that Her Lens Podcast is completely from my perspective, and I'm excited that you guys are willing to hear me out. And of course, leave me a comment down below if there's video ideas, maybe topics, questions, or someone that you'd like to see featured in the future for Her Lens Podcast. Tune in next week, and I'll see you then. Bye. You've never heard the song?
Play it. I'm trying to hear it.
Nope, restart. Just
I'm
cut.
really glad. Yo.